So this presentation is you can do what with Google Docs. A lot of us know what Google Docs is. Like Google Docs came out when I was in college, so it was a long time ago, it feels like. And when it first came out, I was like, wow, this is awesome. You can collaborate on a document, you can share it with other people, and they can contribute to that document in real time. Little did I know how much it would progress over the years. And of course it was going to progress because it is widely used in our school systems, widely used in business, widely used personally. And it's one of those tools that when you hear Google Docs, you probably are like, oh yeah, I know what Google Docs is. But if you haven't been in Google Docs in a while, or you haven't really explored all the awesome features of Google Docs, there's a lot more to it than what just a word processor. And so in this slide, in this presentation, we're going to go through some of the different things that you can do with Google Docs. If you want to join Pear Deck, just one last call here. You can go to joinpd.com. You can put in this code, and this code will be up here in the right-hand corner as well. There you go. Yeah, Alex also put it in the chat. Thanks, Alex. A little bit about myself. My name is Tyler Youngers. I'm an educational consultant. I'm now no longer affiliated with the AEAs or anything like that. I just resigned from the AEA just this past summer. I am going to be farming a lot more for the family farm, but I also do a lot of educational consulting and online teaching. So I'm still going to do that, and I still want to be a part of, I'm very passionate about educational technology, instructing, and all that. So I definitely want to continue to present and share all the insights that I have. So you'll probably notice, like, when you contact me, my email address is no longer affiliated with an education account, just so you're aware of that. So we're going to get started today with a little bit of how you're feeling. We're well into the Heart of Innovation Summit, and see where we're at with that. We're going to talk about why docs, basics of docs, beyond the basics, kind of do a live demo, some of the different things that you can do with Google Docs. And then I'll have some documents, docs resources for you to look at and explore. And then there'll be a Q&A, and we'll wrap up. So I guess the first question is, how are you feeling today on the Nicolas Cage feelings chart? And this is something you could use in your classroom as well. Middle school, preferably, probably, or high school. No, I don't know if kids will get it. I don't know. It just kind of depends. But you can see here, just a fun way. Here's how I'm feeling today. We are, August has come, and seems like it's going quickly. Maybe not too quickly, but let's cherish the final days we have before school starts. And you can start to see, how folks are feeling. Cool. Yeah. Focused, happy, focused, relaxed. Nice. That's awesome. Stressed. Yeah. Meh. Nobody has bees though, so I guess that's a good thing. Just a fun activity. Get the the mind moving, and start thinking about how are students feeling. A good check-in. Pear Deck allows for that. Do you have an image that you want to share with students, and then they can draw on the slides? Really simple, easy to implement into the classroom, and kind of get a temperature of the classroom. A little more serious though, the question of what are some ways that you use Google Docs in your classroom, if applicable? I know Google Docs, we maybe think word processor. That's the number one thing we probably think of. So it's like, maybe it's geared towards more these type of subject areas. But over the years, over teaching this Google Docs and learning about different ways that teachers use it, I have been impressed and amazed at all the different ways that it can be used. So if you share your thoughts there, I would appreciate that. Okay, and with Pear Deck, of course, you can see the responses. They are anonymous. You probably know what your response is, but if you were projecting this on the screen, and this isn't the point of the presentation, Pear Deck is not the point, but it's fun to go through Pear Deck and kind of share some of the ways that it can enhance your teaching and enhance the classroom environment. So you can see, though, I can show responses. They're anonymous to you as viewers. You can see that they're building in real time. And we can, on the teacher side of things, like the teacher dashboard, I can see who all submitted what. And so then I could highlight certain responses and I could respond to you privately on the back end through the teacher dashboard. But for this sake, we'll just kind of go through it. So you see a lot of word processing, collaborative projects and activities. That's awesome. Great. Teaching students how to format. So word processing, great. Collaboration. That's a great segue because we're going to talk about the different ways why Docs is such a great tool and why it checks more of the boxes than you think, and it meets a lot of your your instructional purposes. I always start with the 4 C's, the 21st century skills, are well into the 21st century. But these skills, obviously, we know that businesses are still looking for these soft skills, these skills where students are creative thinkers. They're creative in their problem solving. Talked about that in the keynote right away, how we can have students be creatives and be creative. But also we know with that creativity, usually critical thinking follows, being able to communicate, this is why I think this way, or this is why I built this way, demonstrating their understanding of the learning and communicating that effectively and clearly. And being able to articulate yourself is really a crucial skill. And we want all students to be able to do that after they leave our hands and move on to, their future endeavors. And then collaboration. A lot of you mentioned that in your post on the last slide. Getting students to collaborate and collaborate well. Collaboration is one thing, but collaborating well where people are held accountable, they have certain tasks that they do, and you can see the accountability as you go from the start to the finish of a project. That's really awesome. And Google Docs can facilitate that. And that's a great way for you as the teacher to build those collaborative skills, hold students accountable. But then eventually, if you're doing project-based learning and students are doing projects on their own as groups, they start to use these skills too. They start to model or implement what you've modeled. And then they can start holding each other accountable as they collaborate on learning opportunities. So you can see all the different things. I won't read through all these, but a lot of these things we're going to touch base on this today. And especially the feedback piece, giving feedback through Google Docs has improved immensely. And it's a great way to connect with your students and be more efficient. Use your time wisely as you give feedback to your students. And just kind of a funny note here, this is Google actually posting this on Twitter or X, whatever, I don't know, whatever it's called. But so there are 2 kinds of Google Docs users: those who instantly reply when you tag them, and those who say they never got the notification. So on the topic of feedback, which one are you? Which one are your students? Good thing to keep in mind, because the feedback process, and I'm guilty of this too. Like sometimes I don't see that notification come through. And there should be systems in place that you know where that notification is going to go, so you can respond to it. But it does come to your email, and we know how email works. We can easily drown an email. So it's just kind of funny that there are 2 different kinds of Google Docs users. So we're going to go into the basics of Docs, and I've kind of built this all off of a test document, so I will share that off the screen here. But just a couple things to remind you right away when you get into Docs. There are ways for you to quick start with Google Docs, and this applies to your students as well. If you want to just get into a doc real quick, you're in a riveting professional development meeting and you want to take notes real quick, you can go to docs.new. It'll open up a brand new doc. This is tied to my Grow Professionally account, but this could be tied to your school account, and you can just start writing away, or maybe turn on voice type, and then as your administrator is talking, it could dictate what they're saying. I don't know, but anyway, So that's one way to access it right away, quickly, docs.new. Another way to access your Google Docs is to go to docs.google.com, not spreadsheets. It always does that. Okay. So docs.google.com. This will take you just directly to your Google Docs gallery where you can see all of your documents that you've created, but you also have this template gallery. And depending on what your school has open, what your administrator has on versus off, typically though, I think for templates, you will have access to these in particular. Maybe not some of the ones that are paid, the add-on ones, but if you wanted to, have students work on formatting, maybe you're in a career skills class, you want them to build a resume, they could use some of these templates and build off of them where, I know it's important to teach them the formatting, like formatting for a resume, obviously there's a lot of different ways to do that, but as far as formatting a paper and stuff like that, I know that is a crucial skill, but also there's a template that already has it already formatted for them. So maybe it's a teachable moment, like here's why it's formatted this way, and teaching students the why behind it, and why it's so important, because someday maybe they won't have access to a template. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, but in the future, maybe they do have to create one from scratch, and then they'll know the why, they'll know how to do it. But you can build a resume like this. You can go back to the docs gallery. There's like meeting notes. There are some education-based ones, kind of like a pet resume. Here's some education ones, like an essay, reports. Here's an MLA report. Here's an APA 6th edition, 7th edition. So that has the formatting for you or your students. I have seen teachers, use this essay format as a template, and it works really well. Just to, think about it in terms of, as a teacher, this is my own personal preference. I would much rather spend more time on the content of their writing and looking at, what are the arguments they're trying to make? How is their thesis statement? Stuff like that. And I would so much prefer to spend less time on formatting. I mean, I enjoy that we have the spell checkers, the grammar checkers and all that, because I want to get to the content, and I want to see what the students are writing about. But like I said, formatting obviously is very important as well. And if that's something you're teaching, and that's one of the standards that you're teaching, and that's a learning target for students to meet, then yeah, obviously you want to focus on that. But there are templates available. Also, you can access your docs from your Google Drive. You probably already know how to do that. But that docs gallery, which I was just at, docs.google.com, what's nice about that is it's just Google Docs there. And then you can start filtering, and you can just find documents for a certain, I better just show you instead of describing that. You can use a search button up here, and you can start searching by owned by me, not owned by me. You can sort, you can do a list view, you can do all these different things, but you can search for a specific document. So I have an AI document. Where is that document? All that stuff, you can find those very quickly. Owned by me, you can see when it was last modified. So it is kind of nice. It kind of eliminates all the noise of Google Drive, because Drive can get pretty wild pretty quickly. We all know that. But, you can find it that way. One other tip for you, just for Google Docs' sake, keep it organized. So whatever naming convention you use, I think the big thing is, use something you're comfortable with, something that you know what it means. I guess that's a pretty basic idea first and foremost, but also making sure it's consistent. So for whatever reason, I adopted the brackets a long time ago, and the brackets are kind of I use the brackets to start the document, and then I go from there. Part of that is strategic. Other part of that, like if you want a certain doc to go to the top of your list, that's where you would use those characters, the numericals, all that to help you organize your documents. Other things for you to access here, if you wanted to, you can click on these links as Pear Deck users here. You can go to the Docs cheat sheet, gives you all these different ideas and tips and tricks for you. And then if you want to stay informed on Docs as updates come up, AI embedded into Docs is coming. Whether or not your district turns that on or not, that's another thing. But you know, that's currently a lab feature, but that's going to be something that's coming. And yeah, that'll be pretty interesting. So we're going to go beyond the basics with Docs here. And for this, we're actually going to go into my test document. And I'm going to show you some of the things that you can now do with Google Docs. And I noticed my description, like of my session. I'm going to try and meet all those session descriptions. I know I put a lot of things in there, but first and foremost, when you start building out a Google Doc, like the first thing that it asked me to do was like put a meeting note here. And so it actually did that. And you'll see these smart chips now have a meeting note where I can do certain things with these highlighted chips, if you will. It's a link. So it's going to go to, you know, my calendar. It's going to allow me to book something today at a time, you know, all these different things that you can do with these smart chips. It's going to allow you to do that. So smart chips are just really, they call them chips, but chips that allow, like they're a hyperlink document or a video or a doc or a person, and they allow you to do things with that chip. So like the attendees, it'll automatically put Grow Professionally as the attendee. That's the name of my online learning company, but it has all of my details here as far as, you know, my email address, LinkedIn page, all that stuff, if I have it tied to that. So we're actually, that's coming. We're going to talk about smart chips in a little bit, but what's nice about this though, it created this format really quickly for me. And you know, taking notes for things and then adding the chips so you can hyperlink to certain things and have access to everything. It's kind of like that HyperDoc mentality where you have your document that has all the information on it, but then once you start hyperlinking things and you start building out an interactive document, you can easily find all the information that you need for that concept or that meeting or that idea, whatever you're working on. So it is nice. And, you know, that automatically makes a word processing document like Docs infinitely better, more interactive, and more robust. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'm actually just going to go down the action items, is talking about access and templates. So the access piece, just making sure that, you know, when you share things, obviously some of this hasn't changed. But if I were to share this with, you know, like my personal account, yeah, I can share it as an editor. I can viewer, commenter, you know, that hasn't changed. But you can also add an expiration date. So if I wanted Tyler to access this document for a certain period of time, Tyler, the personal Tyler, I could do that. And I could select the time. And then he would have access to this document for that specific time period. I don't know why you would add an expiration date. You know, maybe you have assignments that are time sensitive in the classroom. Okay, I know why you would do this. You could add an expiration date to all of your documents for your first semester. Add an expiration, the end of the semester, it expires. All the users that had access to it, it expires. So then the new users, the next semester, won't have, you know, maybe this is a document that you're filling out information on. It's something that students are interacting with, editing, adding to, all that stuff. That's that semester's document. So then the future semester, clean slate, they're going to start with a new document. That's if you don't make multiple copies of your document, I guess. But, you know, that's an expiration date that you could add. If it's a parent letter, or maybe it's like a permission slip or something like that, and has a hard deadline, add an expiration to it. So access piece, just so you're aware of that. Also, general access, you know, that we all get caught in this, like someone requests access to a document. Remember, all documents start as restricted, and then likely the next step is they are either restricted or they're only shared within your domain. And I've run into that issue quite a bit where I can't access documents because they're only in the domain. So that's the second step. And then there's anyone with the link. And obviously you can make them viewers, editors, commenters. Other settings you can do with the doc. You can click this on or off, like editors can change permissions and share. You could have a code teacher edit your document, but you can also make sure that they don't share with, I don't know, whoever. Or you could have students be editors, but they can't change the share permissions. So they can't kick you out of the document. And you can stay in the document as the owner, editor, master editor of the document. You can also click this on and off. Viewers and commenters can see the option to download, print, and copy. You can toggle that on and off as well. So that's for access. As far as templates go, I already kind of shared templates with you as far as, going to the doc, the template gallery. I will say, though, on this last slide, there are some more templates here for you to take a look at. And I know I'm bouncing around a lot. You have to, sorry, try and stay with me here. There we go. Much easier to see. As far as file types, so you may have been a Microsoft Word user or you're currently a user. Just note that when you get that docx format, you can bring that into Google Docs and it'll convert it for you. There used to be a trick to it. Now it just automatically converts it for you. You can also take a doc like this and then you can download it, and you have all these different doc types that you can download it into. That's important as well, depending on what you want to do with the file moving forward. If you don't want it to be collaborative, you just want it to be a static document, okay, maybe a PDF is more your style there. Some of these I don't spend a lot of time with, but maybe you want to format it into a Microsoft Word document. You can do that here through your download. Also, file types, whether or not, like, maybe you have over 100 people that are going to access your document at some point, you can actually you can share this more as a web page to them, or you can have them access it that way. So you could do like a web page document. It won't be, I think it'll be more static then instead of dynamic. I don't know that that's a problem, but if you're having more than 100 editors on a document at once, kudos to you, because that sounds like chaos to me. But you can do that. You can have 100 editors at a time. It might slow down. I think of the meetings that I've been to in the past, like all staff, there were more than 100 educators on those at one time. Slows the document way down, of course, but we were all editors. We could all edit all over the place. That was wild, but those are wild times. But you can do that. Okay, moving forward, as far as formatting or page setup. So a big thing that I like to do for page setup is going to File, Page Setup. And I actually like to apply this to the whole document, but you can select certain content that you do. But I like to change my margins. I like to give myself a little more space. So I do 0.5. It's typically 1 inch around the margins. You can also change it from portrait to landscape. So if you need more real estate that way, you can change it back to portrait. You can change the page colors. And I've seen this done, with educators where they maybe change the background color, and then in their boxes, when they have the students do the work, it kind of just focuses in on the boxes. And this allows, like, this background color, then you can put different images, emojis and stuff around the outside. Creativity, a lot of creativity there. Other things you can do, though, with page setup, like you could apply it to one page or the other. So like if someone's building, like maybe a student's building out an entire story with Google Docs, they could change the document where one page is portrait, another page is landscape, portrait, landscape. So maybe they're adding images into their document. Maybe you as a teacher are creating like a digital HyperDoc, like you're creating a HyperDoc lesson for students. Maybe it's a unit that you're creating through Google Docs. And the intent was, I want to have everything on Docs, Plus, it's going to have spaces for students to respond to things. And I also want the doc to be flexible so I can add content as needed. So maybe you're doing that, and you can apply that to certain pages of the document. Another thing you can do is do pageless. So this format allows you to add more wide images and tables and consume content without the interruption of page breaks. So what that does is it creates just a huge space. And if you want to learn more about that, I've actually embedded a chip here of a YouTube video from Casey Bell. Nice thing about this, I don't have to go to YouTube to watch this video. I can just watch it right inside of my Google Doc. Now, we're trying to figure out, I'm not sure, I don't have a classroom to test this, but in some cases, YouTube is blocked at your districts. But we've been trying to test this whether or not, if you added the link of the YouTube video that you're using as a smart chip, could you watch it within your Google Doc and it not be blocked? I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but you know, something to look into, because that is something that you know, creating an interactive lesson on a Google Doc and then being able to have videos embedded to enhance your instruction, add supplemental instruction, just differentiation in your instruction because someone else is teaching it. You know, there's a lot of value to that. And not having students leave the document is another huge plus. Don't let them go on YouTube. Get them out of the YouTube space arena. Keep them in the Google Docs. So pageless, you know, a lot of real estate here. I would say I don't use pageless very often, but I can see where if you were adding a bunch of images, you wanted to have more space to do things. I've had documents shared with me that are pageless, so, you know, you can do that. We'll go back to our page format. Creativity, just real quick, just shared a smart chip here of getting creative with Google Docs. I'll just set this here for your own viewing pleasure so you can change some things, but basically saying, giving yourself more space, kind of like I talked about with the page setup, but changing the default header and the normal text styles. So I like to use Lexend as a font. It's just easier for me to read. And I know it has some accessibility. It meets some of the accessibility needs of readers that maybe have dyslexia. But, you know, as far as like changing the font style to add a little more flair, maybe you are in a unit where you are doing, I don't know, I don't really have anything here, but like maybe more Gothic style or something like that, you could change and you could add all those different fonts. And you can see here, you can get a ton of fonts. So I suppose if there's something that you want in particular, you can find it. But more about like a Gothic style. Maybe you're writing a novel in the classroom, and you wanted the Gothic style for you and your students, you to introduce the topic, but then your students to build upon their documents and their lessons. You can do that. You can change the default header and the styles. You can update the text to different styles as well. You can insert tables and then add content into those tables, and then you can create an image gallery using a table, and all that is here. Or you can create a creative header. And I have done that. So some of my classes, I will put the header. I've built a header for Google Classroom. I actually put that on top of the document as well to add some consistency. And I built all that on Canva for free and then brought it over to Google Docs very easily. Now, as far as, you know, getting creative with Google Docs, I will just share here because I know we don't have a ton of time, but you know, getting creative and then adding like an image gallery right here, a photo journal, what I was able to do. And, you know, this could be used for elementary students all the way up to secondary. But what I was doing here was adding free use, fair use images. So I went over to insert and images and I searched the web. Search for an image of a tiger. This is an image that I would want, and I want to put it in this box right here. Now I have a tiger in my photo journal. Nice thing about that, being creative in the sense of where students are then, as they insert images and they build out a photo journal, maybe they are doing a report. Maybe they are writing creative stories. Maybe they are doing like a compare and contrast of a tiger versus a lion. And so going to insert an image, they can add things from their drive, your photos. They could take a photo of a lion on a trip or at the zoo, bring it into their Google Doc as well. I like the search the web feature though, because it's embedded here and we can access it very easily. And like I said, these are fair use images to use, and then we can do a compare and contrast activity. So I have these two images, then I would maybe add a row below. Merge the cells. Add another row. Students put their response here. I've built a quick learning opportunity, whether this is like a bell ringer, because the intent is to do compare and contrast. That's a skill we're working on. So it could be a bell ringer for students. This is something that you could create on the Google Doc and then share out via Google Classroom, or share a link to make a copy of this for your students. It can be used in a lot of different ways. It could be distributed in a lot of different ways. But now they are working on compare and contrast. This is something that you built very quickly. And then, as an exit ticket, maybe you have students then do their own photo journal, say, all right, now take this idea, build your own template, gallery below or whatever. Take two images and do, as an exit ticket, do a compare and contrast below. And that's our exit ticket. Just love how easy it is to bring in images. And then once you start using like visual, like learning strategies where you're analyzing images and then doing something off of that, it's simple. It is something that is engaging. Students like the different images, and you can find some really cool images. Like obviously, animals are cool, really cool. But say you wanted to find images from like NASA, National Geographic, Unsplash, you could find all these free fair use images, bring them into Google Docs, create a quick learning opportunity off of it. Other things that you can insert. So I was already inserting an image, but you can insert a table. I use tables a lot to do like a call and response, because tables are pretty versatile. You can add in multiple columns, you can add in multiple rows. You could have like a certain space for students to type their responses. And it's just visually appealing because then you know exactly where to go. So it helps with the design of the learning opportunity for students. And, you can put anything in a table. Another thing you can add is a drawing. So if you wanted to do a new drawing from like Google Drawing or something that you want to draw here, you get the Google Drawing template, like the drawing board. That's what I would call it. You would take something. Maybe we want to get an image from life. I don't know. Okay, maybe not. Let's go to Google. Let's go with the tiger. Okay. Puts the tiger image here. And now say this is a science lesson and we're trying to identify different parts of the tiger. This is you as a teacher building this lesson. You can add little boxes, point to different parts of the tiger, save it, and close, and it'll add the image here. I didn't put the box, but it'll add the image on your document. So now you've created an interactive drawing for your students to interact with. You can also insert charts. So if you're doing some, different charts and work in that regard, maybe that's something you're doing in math or science, you did some experiments, you collected some data, and now you want to add your chart here. And this is the way that students will present their information. Great, you can do that. You can find things from sheets as well. And then also horizontal lines, you probably saw that here. I just like using those as breaks, throughout. the Google Doc, but you can also add emojis. And you have a whole list of emojis here, and they can easily be added to your document. So you want your juggler, and you want it to be a big juggler, you can do that. And there's all sorts of emojis. I'm actually using a PC, so when I click Windows period, it opens up my emoji menu. This is Microsoft, but I can also add in GIFs right into the document, and you can see they are interactive and they can be used. So if you wanted to go to Tenor or Giphy or whatever and wanted to go get a GIF and put it in here, you could do that. Okay, as far as inserting smart chips and drop downs. So smart chips, you can see here all the different types of smart chips. The one thing that I'll just do very briefly is just doing a place. Now, as a former social studies educator and someone that just recently went to Belgium last year, dang it, that's not very recent anymore, but a year ago, we were able to see Battle of the Bulge and, went to Bastogne. And the nice thing about this, so once you add this to the test document, say you're doing a learning opportunity on World War II battles, and you wanted to add just the place. And to start the learning opportunity, students just start. You probably want a little more direction on this, but maybe just start like, all right, what do you see here? Or what are we, why, I don't know. I would definitely put questions along with this, but like, why was this such a pivotal battle in World War II? You don't get a lot from images here, but, you start to see the Battle of the Bulge, you start to see, foxholes, different techniques were used in this battle. And then all of a sudden it turns into this awesome learning opportunity just based off of adding a smart chip of a place. So then they can have the exact location from Google Maps. You start adding some images, smart chips of videos about it, and then you've built out a learning opportunity very quickly. Another way to insert is to do drop downs. And I think I'll just share the one. Okay, these are some that I've created before, but you can create your own drop downs, or you can just create ones based off of that are preset. So I actually created one for like attendance, and I used emojis to indicate, I don't know what this was, but like, oh, I'm going to the apple orchard, or I don't know. You could create an entire table and then add this drop down in the table. I'll show you what I did down here. So they, I was doing I think it was a close type of reading activity where I shared all this information on the reading activity. And then I added a drop down within the sentence. So then students could determine like, and at the end of the day, I'm going to go to the pumpkin patch, rake leaves, apple orchard, or whatever. It represents something, and you can add those drop downs all throughout your paragraph, and you could have those as a part of that. Also, another thing you can see here, the drop downs were added here, like for we inserted a building block, and we inserted, I think this was like a product roadmap or a launch, a review tracker. So basically what it does is it creates this template for you. And then I added in the drop downs for statuses, like I'm thinking about this, I'm working on this, or I'm launching this. And then you could start adding related files, and you can search your files by using the @ sign. And then it'll start looking at your files, and you can add these files in here for review. And it's a smart chip, so it'll send you directly to the file. I think what you'll need to do though is have access to the document in order to access it. So that's another thing. And then other notes, you could put in the person that's responsible for it. You could do all that within this template that's created for you. So drop downs can be used in a lot of different ways. I really like the idea that you can customize them, and you can add emojis to them. So they can be very personalized, creative, and students can build those as well. Okay, as far as building blocks, let's see. We got a little bit of time left. We got about 13 minutes left. I think we'll be good here. So building blocks. That was smart chips. That was drop down. That was a drive-by. That was not very detailed, but definitely play around with them, because I think once you start looking at it and the different ways that you can use those two ideas, I think you'll start thinking of different ways that you'll use them in the classroom. Drop down is something that Eric Kurtz shares, though, in his close reading activity, and that is on the resources page right here. Yeah, the next thing I'm going to talk about is building blocks. So if you've not been on Google Docs in a while, there are building blocks. I kind of just briefly went over this, but at the start, meeting notes, it'll create the building block for you. An email draft, it'll create the building block for you. Product roadmap, review tracker, project assets, launch content tracker, all those more business related. But yes, as we heard this morning, yes, they are probably more business related, but we can be creative and use them for educational purposes. As long as there's an instructional purpose, and as long as it's helping students do something more effectively, efficiently, I definitely keep that in mind. Like, don't just add a bunch of these just because. Have a purpose for it, have instructional purpose. And that accountability piece we were talking about when students start collaborating, have them use that. Okay, back to the email draft. So what it does here, mess up my document here, I'll put it right here. So the email draft, what you can do here is, you can add in all these features if you want, but basically you build out your entire email on Google Docs, first and foremost. Start writing your message. And then once you are done, you can go over here and preview in Gmail. So it'll open up your Gmail and you can see a preview of it, and it'll bring it all over. And it does a pretty good job. Nice thing about this, though, if you're using the building block, you know exactly how everything's formatted right here on Google Docs before you send it to Gmail. So that's really nice. I know in the past, I've just been really frustrated with how things format on an email. And, we also want to make sure emails are read. So you could think about it in terms of, I want to add an image here, or I want this Canva flyer to be here, but I want to see what it looks like. You can do all the drafting on Google Docs and then bring it over to Gmail. Another cool thing about this, you have all your welcome back to school emails, your field trips, your weekly meetings for history club, whatever it may be. Draft all those in Google Docs, have a record of it, and then just change the dates and everything when you need it. And then when you're ready to send it an email, just click preview in Gmail. It'll come over to Gmail, and then you can send it to the people that you need to send it to. Or if you're going to schedule emails, then you can schedule all these at that time as well. Build them, schedule them. Done. Great efficiency piece, something great for educators to use. Okay. If you are asking questions, sorry, I'm not following along right now, but if you have a question, I will leave a little bit of time at the end and I'll answer those, or I'll try to go back to those. Moving forward, though, just some tools for you to look at. You can compare documents, so different versions of a document. It'll do the comparison for you. That's something to take a look at. Citations, you can build those over here in certain citation formatting. And you can build out the citations here. I don't know how accurate it is. I haven't built citations in a long time. So if you are an ELA teacher, social studies, science, math, whatever you're using citations for, check it out. See if it works well for you. I always went to Purdue OWL, but this is within the document. It's keeping everything within the document, which is a really nice feature. And then also we have the Explore button. I was notified by someone today, actually, that the Explore button has gone away in your document. It has not gone away. It's just come up to Tools, and now you can go to Explore from here. And then you can start exploring the web. Drive, web, images. Like if I wanted to bring this article in, I could do that, or I could take a look at it, I guess. But if I wanted to bring it in and do an in-text citation or a footer, you could do that here, and it has an in-text citation right here. It's cited that. You can also search images as well and bring those in. So the Explore button allows you to do some research as well within your document. You can go to your Drive, web, or images. Next up for tools, we have our Translate button, so that you can translate the document and you can change the language. Again, I don't know how accurate that is, but I know with students that are English language learners, new learners, newcomers, if you will, and some of you teach in districts where you have dozens of languages that are spoken, it's really important that we can communicate with those students, but also their families and their community members, so you can translate a document fairly easy. How accurate? I don't know. Voice typing, this is another cool feature. This is something that I would definitely have used when I was taking notes, but you click on this icon and you can start voice typing and dictating what you are going to say on the document, period. This feature is kind of nice for students that have a hard time typing or they are unable to type, but they can still communicate through their voice, period. And now they can start to build out their written assignment and articulate their thoughts on the document. You can also change the language here. I'm really curious about this. As I try to write about, no, okay. I think you probably have to speak Spanish in order to make that work. It's recognizing Spanish as your language, I believe, instead of auto-translating your speech. Another great tool, though, something that I have used from time to time. Another tool is your notification settings. So you can now get notified when all comments and tasks are sent to you. If any added or removed content happens, you can click that and you get a notification. That is a newer feature. And then also another feature is the accessibility feature. You can turn on screen reader support, turn on screen magnifier support, and work through that. Extensions, some things that can add to your document. I don't use a ton of extensions. I think a lot of the extensions now are like AI tools, but if Google is going to come out with their own AI tool embedded in their own document and all their Google Workspace tools, probably don't need any of these other tools at this time. One, though, that was really interesting to me, Auto Magical Forms. This was something that I looked at. It looks like it's a freemium type of thing, free to an extent, but you can convert your PDFs, your Google Docs, and Google Slides to Google Forms. So if you want to generate text and multiple choice questions from your Google Docs or your PDFs, create a Google form. It claims it can do that. And that's actually pretty awesome. Like if you have a review document or this is a study document for an assessment, and the assessment then is going to be on Google Forms, and you're taking the students' comments, their learning, and all their studying, and then taking that and creating a form, an assessment off of that, where then they take the Google form assessment. Maybe it's just a formative assessment. That's fine. You don't have to recreate all those questions, though. That's something it'll do for you, I think. I don't know how successful it is. And then once it's on Google Form, you can make it into a graded quiz. And then you are giving better and faster feedback to students because they get immediate feedback and it's fast. And they know exactly where they're at based off of that formative assessment. As far as other extensions, like I said, some of those AI tools may be worth looking into, but maybe not something that you're going to use necessarily yet. I would wait for AI in Google Docs. I'm not going to have time to look at that, but you can review this article if you want. But basically, as far as like some of the AI tools you're seeing in Gmail, Bard, kind of the same format where it gives you the chance to click on a button and it says, help me write, and then it'll help you write a response. Definitely keep your eyes on that, because once students have access to that, they're going to try and use it. And if they are using it, then how do we harness it and use it for good? And how do we learn from the use of it? Lastly, just talking about feedback. Just remember that you can add comments to feedback. You can direct comments at folks. You can assign it to them. And you can assign it. You can have your students do this. You get an email with this assigned to you, and you can respond to the email. And you've created a quick feedback loop with the students, a comment loop. Remember, you can also give feedback through the use of emojis. And I've used this quite a bit. I have ones that I use quite often. And again, that's just giving feedback to students, letting them know where they're at. And maybe you have certain emojis that you use for certain things. Maybe you have a key or a legend that shows students, like, if you get a thumbs up, that means it's on the right track. If you get a neutral face, that's something you need to correct. If you get a thumbs down, come see me. I will support you. We need to work on this. Use the feedback process. Create that feedback loop through Google Docs. Okay, any questions? I will come to the chat here. It's time. Okay. Yeah, just so you all know, you have access to all this information. I will have the slide deck available to you. If you have any questions, you can email me. And that's not the right email address, but you can email me, or I will make sure that Heartland has all of my information. Thank you for coming. Have a great day. Sorry, went a little late. Have a great day.